Hi guys, I'm going to read you chapter 4 and 5 of part 6. Then, like that, Captain Scaldis is no longer standing, no longer speaking, no longer killing, and the stag has collapsed on the ground beside him, bloodied but alive, steam clouding out of his muzzle. The colours still lie where he tossed them, breathing but not moving. I look up at the sky. The rain has finally stopped. I crouch down by the deer. When it started to rain, I thought that was the storm to end all storms, that you had... He shakes his bloodied head. No, not yet. You will know when it comes. But animals died here today. Animals would have died at the ring. You must hurry. But where? Around us the sky begins to brighten up, turning grey-white behind the aerials on the roofs of the cul-de-sac. Everything smells fresh after the storm. In the distance there are noises of premium waking up. I look at the wild, collapsed in a heap, stinking of damp fur. I've brought them here, but there's no dad, and there's no cure. We can't go any further. I run to Wolf Cub, lying in the middle of the road. He's going cold. I kneel down and cradle his damp head on my lap, his tongue hanging out at a funny angle. His eyes turn towards me, every word a massive effort. I faced my fear wildness. Did you see that? Yes, you did, Wolf Cub. You were very brave. Was I the best? But he can't finish the sentence. My hands freeze mid-air above him, waiting for a clear instruction from my brain. Is it always this cold in the city? Says Wolf Cub. I shake my head and hold him, trying to stop the blood, trying to stop everything. Keep your eyes open, Wolf Cub, I order. Just keep them open. I look at the grey sky and imagine crying out one question. Dad, where are you? I brought them here, to our home. Where are you? But the only noise comes from the Wolf Cub, his breath fading in and out. I hold him tight, hoping I might be able to stop the hot blood leaking away. I feel it spill over my t-shirt, my arms, my legs. Take my hand, I say, smelling his warm fur and pressing my hand into his mouth, wanting him to bite it. Weakly, he opens his jaw and closes them around my fingers, teeth barely pressing the skin. He gave us life, trying to protect me, to protect all of us. No, don't go, please don't go. Then Polly is shouting at me. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see her standing in a driveway, yelling, but I don't listen. Instead, I just hold the Wolf Cub, his body going limp in my arms, his breath gurgling in his throat. Kester, listen to me. I can hear a voice. I can't even look at her. She stomps over, squats down in front of me and grabs me by the shoulders, her voice low and deadly serious. Kester, why don't you listen to me for once? I went inside your house. I heard a human voice. There's someone else in there. Quickly, I look round for the cockroach, but he's already settling on my knee. General, you have to take charge now. You know where to find me if anyone comes. Have no fear. I will keep guard over this wild. Reporting for duty. He buzzes sharply over the curb and perches on the edge, overlooking the assembled wild lying exhausted in the road. I carry the Wolf Cub as carefully as I can up my drive and follow Polly through the open door into the big hall with a shiny wooden floor. Wolf Cub trails dark blood everywhere. Polly is shouting, "Hello? Hello?" A voice echoes off the bare white walls, the walls that I know so well, but it doesn't feel like my home anymore. It feels different. We stop, both our hearts thumping away in silence, trying to listen for the other voice in the house. Then I hear it too, a hammering on a door, a muffled shout. I know exactly where to go and hurry down the wide stairs at the end of the hall that lead down to the basement and to a solid shut metal door, the door to my dad's lab. Polly and I stop in front of the door. We exchange glances. The Wolf Cub gives a tiny whistling mew. The hammering continues from the other side of the door, but getting slower, like the person doing it is getting tired. I want to speak. I can feel the air bubbling in my throat, my lips and tongue trying to make a word. The hammering stops. There's a muffled cry from behind the door. Polly looks at me nervously. "Who's there?" is all she says in reply. Then I hear the voice too, behind the metal, saying the words I've been waiting to hear for 6 years, but the voice is so faint. Kester? Is that you?" I take a step back, suspicious. How does he know it's me through a steel-locked door? I think of what Ma said by the fire. I look at Polly. "Yes, it is," she says without any hesitation. Then, "I'm his friend. Can you let us in?" For a moment there is silence behind the door. It doesn't open. There's one last thump, a thump of frustration. "We need to break down the door," says Polly in a matter-of-fact way. She turns to me. "In fact, you need to break the door down." I lay down the Wolf Cub as gently as I can. Stepping back, gesturing to Polly to move out the way, I run at the heavy steel. I charge and charge until my shoulder is sore, until with a noise like a broken spring, the door clicks open. Rubbing my shoulder, I stare at the doorway, at the silhouette of a tall man, crazy hair and beard sticking out in all directions. I can't see his face at first in the shadows, but then he steps out of the lab, through the broken door, into the light of the stairway. My dad, Professor Dawson James. For a moment, Dad just stares, looking past us and up the stairs. I didn't know if the city would feel normal, but I had no idea how this moment would feel, and the shock nearly knocks me off my feet. It's actually Dad. Still here after all this time, still with crazy hair, a crinkled shirt and a forgetful look on his face. Still the same old Dad. My chest tightens like a vice. I properly missed him. I missed him so much more than I realised. At first I don't know if he's thinking the same, because he snaps out of his stare and balls his fists up, ready to fight. Is that wretch still here? With a flash of relief, I realise he means Scaldis. Polly and I both shake our heads. Then he nods to himself, and I know he feels the same because he says it. Kes, missed you so much. And then he envelops me in a massive bear hug, pressing my face against his lab coat. But I wrestle free. There isn't time for hugs now. I need help. Dad looks at me, then at Polly, and finally down at the Wolf Cub pulsing on the floor. He says, is this your friend? Yes, says Polly. He broke into my house. Dad interrupts her with a wave of his big hands. I meant, is this your friend? He points to the Wolf Cub, and I nod. Says Dad, kneels down, scoops him in his arms and hurries back into the lab. We follow him in, Polly looking at me all the time. The lab used to be all clean white surfaces and glass. It's filthy now. There are piles of paper everywhere, covered in crazy scribbles and diagrams and symbols and numbers, and unwashed plates and greasy glasses. A dozen computer screens flicker away, whilst twisting out of them like ivy. The 4 big sloping glass walls that look on the garden and the river beyond are smeared with dust and grime, making the room darker than I remember. Then the smell hits me. I thought the stench in the cockroach tunnel was bad, but this is something else, perhaps because it's human. Polly and I both put our hands over our nose and mouth. Strangest of all, there's a bed in the corner of the lab, the blanket pulled roughly back, a bare bulb lamp on the floor next to it, poking out of a pile of clothes and shoes, and a single toothbrush stands in a mug by the sink. Still carrying the Wolf Cub, Dad frees a hand to sweep papers and plates off the worktop onto the floor. He lays him down in the cleared space and swings a big lamp over. He's rolling up his sleeves, pulling on rubber gloves out of nowhere and talking at Polly and me to get things, telling us where they are, in his usual forgetful dad-like way, as if nothing has happened, nothing has changed. Swabs, bandages and a dressing. I think probably in the cupboard above the sink. You'll have to borrow a chair to stand on. What did you say your name was again? Polly, says Polly, already dragging a chair across. Then Dad is giving me orders like I've never been away. 48 milligrams or so of sodium thiopental, Kes, if you would. It should be in the glass bottle on the shelf, or if not, try under my chair. Within minutes, the Wolf Cub stops yelling, stops shivering, and just lies there sleeping. A syringe of white liquid sticks out of his leg, and an oxygen mask is clamped firmly around his muzzle, his chest slowly rising and falling. Now Dad gives us stuff to hold and things to cut, never panicking, always staying calm, as he bends the right lamp down over the Wolf Cub to see what he's doing. Then he's picking sharp instruments off a tray that Polly and I have carefully cleaned with wipes smelling of alcohol, the only clean things in the whole place, and we have to look away because of the wound. Dad is digging around inside the curb, and then he says, "Salva," and I hand him a metal dish to drop the bloody sticky bullet in. I think I'm going to be sick, but then he's sewing the Wolf Cub up again, careful stitch by careful stitch. Dad injects him one last time, makes sure the oxygen mask is firmly on, and steps back to check his work. Satisfied, he invites us over, and hardly daring to look, we creep nearer. Underneath the mask, the Wolf Cub is still breathing. My father pats him, and then marches over to the sink, ripping off the bloody gloves and tossing them onto the floor. Says Dad. Bit of a rest, and he should be 6 years, and Dad still hasn't learned how to finish a sentence. He dries his hands thoroughly with a paper towel and chucks it, missing, at an overflowing bin in the corner. We're still just watching him. For a moment, no one says anything. There are so many questions bubbling inside me, questions I can't ask. I stamp my foot on the floor with frustration. Polly jumps, and then, like that was her signal, she asks it, like it's the easiest thing in the world to say. The question burning in both our minds. Is it true, Professor James? Dad looks puzzled. What everyone said. Scaldis, outsiders, facto. They all said that you started the virus, that this was your fault. And he smiles. He actually smiles. A sad smile, and he shakes his head. Is that what they say? Right, I see. He scratches at his beard. Well, Dad gestures to the chaos of the lab. Whatever you're thinking, whatever you've been told, whatever she thinks, it's... His voice trails away. Wrong? Suggests Polly. I really hope so. I really hope so. But Dad just nods in a vague way, like she'd just reminded him where his slippers were, and places his hands on my shoulders. Kez, he says, none of this is how it, you know. For some reason I can't meet his eye. My own dad. He sighs and looks up and down. You've grown, he says, and grips my shoulder tight. You've grown so much. Then he turns abruptly away like he doesn't want me to see his face. Let me try and explain, he says to the window, and starts to pace up and down, looking at the floor as he speaks. Science, he announces to the mess all around him, the scribbled pages and the rows of test tubes, as if he's just revealing to them only now that they're actually what they're actually here for. That's what I believe in, Kez, in thinking things through, using the knowledge we've discovered to, what's the word? He stops pacing, picks up a rubber band from the dust on the floor and peers at it suspiciously before shoving it in his pocket. Where was I? Oh yes, science. He turns to us, his face lit up. Miracles. That's what we can achieve with science. Real, living, breathing miracles. He points to the Wolf Cub, sleeping peacefully with his oxygen mask on, a large bandage around his middle. We just saved your friend here. No other animal can do that, you know. Help and save another one in that way. I think of the stag just lying outside. But we can't always. First came the red eye. Now that was savage. Total. He closes his eyes and pinches the bridge of his nose as if to clear the memory. Unfortunately, in that case, science was absolutely powerless. Even I couldn't. We lost so many, so quickly. Dad stops in front of the operating table in the middle of the room, covered in piles of books on top of a dust sheet, and taps it. Right in front of me on this very, he sighs, and then of course your mother got, well, she got very sick indeed. I can feel Polly glance at me anxiously, but I can't take my eyes off Dad. We couldn't save her either. The one person I would have... He stops, shakes his head. I would have given anything, but the fact is we lost her. She's gone forever, and I just couldn't... You see? He clenches his hands together tightly, making his knuckles white. So I thought, do something good in her memory. Everlasting. That was what I wanted. He must see the puzzlement on our faces. A cure! I vowed to find a cure for the red eye. A cure in your mum's name. The lab seems to have grown quieter than before. No machines humming, and even the noise of the city from outside has faded. That, Dad says, is when all my troubles really started.